it going, people? I hope you're having a damn great day. Thank you so much for clicking on this video. Today we'll be replicating a very effective Borussia Mönchengladbach 3-4-3 formation under the likes of Gerardo Sioana. Of course, as always, if you don't mind smashing the like button, subscribing, commenting down below, rating the system, and comment that down below as well, that'd be great. But yes, I also understand that under the likes of Gerardo Sioana, they have chopped and changed their tactics and their formations throughout the course of the season. So they've played a 3-4-3, they've played a 4-3-3, they've played a 3-5-2. So they have changed things and altered situations and have tried to adapt to the opposition at times. I know that they've had some success with this 3-4-3 formation, beating Wolfsburg 3-1, and then obviously yesterday they ended up losing to Borussia Dortmund 2-1, but I thought that they played very well in well, I did watch the game. So in certain moments of that game, I thought they did very well. They got off to a bad start, two goals down, but they managed to come back and, pull themselves back into the tie, or into the game, I should say, with the goal from Woba and so on. So yes, enough waffling. Let's hop on straight into the goddamn video. Taking a look at the formation. Now, I've selected a 3-4-3 flat and I've altered a few positions. I've changed the wingers into left and right midfielders by dropping them and also narrowing them very efficiently and very effectively. This allows them to link up very well with the midfield as well as with the striker. And then also I've dropped the wider midfielders and turned them into wing backs, and I've also narrowed them very effectively. This allows for a nice compact structure when out of possession of the ball. It also allows for quite a bit of interchangeability between the wide midfielders as well as the fullbacks. So those are the main reasons for the few alterations that I have made to the formation. But anyways, it will be one goalkeeper, three centre backs, two wing backs. Yes, two wing backs, two central midfielders, two wider midfielders, and then of course one striker. So moving on to the tactics. Now, the tactical vision that I think best suits and reflects a realistic Sioana and Borussia Mönchengladbach set of tactics is the counter-attack. They tend to, keep their shape, keep their structure, defend very well, defend quite deep. This low risk, high reward type style of play where once they do turn the ball over in their favor and they regain possession, they'll look to work it very quickly through the lines into their forwards, who will look to try and do the damage on the break. They can also look to play a possession-based brand of football. Yes, you wouldn't associate counter-attacking football with possession, but against the lesser sides, they have looked to try and dominate them, work the ball into those wide areas, look to try and supply the forwards as well. But more so, the efficiency comes from the counter, looking to try and soak up pressure and then hit the opposition players, or the opposition team, I should say, on the break. In terms of the defense and the defensive style, now this can vary. It's a very adaptable system, you could say, under the likes of Sioana, but against the bigger sides, drop back is absolutely essential. Not looking to press or probe or force errors, more so looking to regain their shape, kind of deny the opposition the space in between the lines, deny the opposition extra passes in their half, more so looking to drop back into their defensive shape and structure and making it very hard to try and break down. But if you are playing against a lesser side, maybe a Wolfsburg, for example, you can set it to pressure on heavy touch. This will still allow the team to try and maintain their shape and their structure, but it will allow them to also press and probe and force mistakes and errors out of the opposition, and that can allow you to more or less create extra counter-attacking opportunities if you do win the ball back. But because I'm replicating the Borussia Dortmund tactics, it's more so going to be set to drop back. In terms of the team width, it is set to 40. Now, you are playing a back five system, so you want to try and fit those players comfortably in the back line, kind of preventing those crosses from those wide areas. But you're also looking to try and shrink, creating these man-v-man type situations in the more central areas, making it very uncomfortable for the opposition to try and play in those central areas, especially with the likes of your wider midfielders also looking to tuck in certain moments and trying to help the two central midfielders in the center of the park. As for the depth, I've set this to 35. Now, again, it can vary depending on who you are playing. If you're looking for a bit more of a possession-based brand of football, not looking to try and soak up as much pressure, you can definitely push this higher up and maybe set it to around 50. You can do this. It creates a nice effective line. The ball playing abilities of your center backs are also very much in tune then, and it can help with the possession. But if you're looking to sit back, soak up pressure, and try and create as many counter-attacking opportunities as possible, I would say, and I would advise, you set this to around 30-35, which is exactly what I have right here. As for the offense, the boulder play as well as the chance creation links very well with the tactical vision, and that is forward runs and long balls. You can definitely look to punt the ball long in behind, trying to get those runners, your front line runners in behind. But you don't necessarily always have to do this. You can also look to progress the ball quite quickly through the lines, like I'd mentioned earlier, and then look to work it into your wider players, who will also look to try and combine with the wing backs. The forward runs is set to be on. Of course, they'll look to try and penetrate the opposition's backline as much as possible, especially if you are looking to play those long balls in behind, or maybe those quick through balls as well. But at the same time, what the forward runs does is it pushes your whole team up. So your wing backs will also be pushed nice and high up the field. It can allow you to sometimes pin the opposition in their own half for short periods of time. Your double pivots in the midfield will also look to progress nice and high up the field, and they can be very effective rotational options. And when I say rotation, I mean when you are in possession of the ball, they'll look to rotate it into those wide areas and maybe look to try and work a better goal scoring opportunity. In terms of the width, it is set to 70. Quite a lot of the attacks stem from the wider areas of the field, the fullbacks as well as the wider midfielders combining very well in those wider channels, looking to try and supply crosses into the box for the attackers. And speaking of which, the crosses in the box will be supplied to around 2 to 3 players. And they don't look to overcrowd or overload the opposition's box. They don't want to overcommit too many players and then somewhat be counted on themselves. So therefore, I think a very balanced 5 suits the system of play. And if you do lose the ball, or if the ball is won back by the opposition, you have at least 3 players in and around that attacking area to try and either win the ball back or potentially get back into position and try and stifle a potential opposition counter-attack. As for the corners and the free kicks, as always, it is set to 4. So guys, taking a look at the individual player instructions, starting off at the back with Omlin. He is said to be cautious for crosses as well as a balanced approach for saving outside of the box. He is very capable of being able to play under pressure, play through presses, deliver those, crucial passes into the midfield when under pressure. But more times than not, if a ball is whipped in over the top or a quick through ball is played in, he'll look to try and stay on his line and allow for the back line to try and deal with that quick counter attack or that quick through ball. The same goes for the crosses. He'll rather choose to stay on his line and allow for the back line to try and deal with the crosses or the cutbacks or anything in and around the box. Very seldom do you see the likes of an Omlin running and collecting the ball, catching the ball, being very aggressive when it comes to those aerial balls when they are whipped into the box. He'll more so allow for the back line to always try and deal with the situation at hand. And speaking of which, the back line, we've got the likes of Woba, Itakura, as well as LVD. So what I noticed was the likes of Woba he had the license to bomb forward, he had the license to overlap and combine very nicely with the likes of a Nets and a Hack down that wider left channel, often also delivering in crosses and trying to create goal scoring opportunities himself. So he was allowed to overlap and get forward. Whereas the likes of Itakura and LVD, they are both set to the same set of instructions, and they were like trying to cover for the more adventurous Woba, so they are set to conservative interceptions, and I think this does create a nice cover type system with the other 2 center backs in play. So progressing on to your left and your right wing back, both are set to the same set of instructions: join the attack, mixed run type, and then of course stick to position. A lot of the attacks stemmed from the wider areas of the field, whether it was one of your wider midfielders supplying in the cross or one of your wing backs doing so, or maybe even a Woba doing so as well. But more so, you want your wider midfielders as well as your wingbacks to try and combine very effectively down the left or the right channel. But at the same time, you want them to interchange. So the one might overlap with the other underlap and vice versa. You want to try and create the system very efficiently, very effectively. And I do think that having them set to the run type of mixed allows them to do this very well. As you'll see here for the likes of Scally, the right wingback, of course, he is set to join the attack, mixed run type, and of course, stick to position. So progressing on into the midfield, your double pivots. This could be the likes of Itakura and Weigl. I've obviously gone ahead and selected the likes of Kone and Weigl. You could even throw in the likes of Neuhaus, although I kind of think that Neuhaus suits a midfield 3 system, or maybe even a double pivot with a number 10, with Neuhaus being that number 10. So I don't really rate him in a system like this. I don't think he suits it that well. So therefore, Kone and Weigl have been selected for that double pivot role. Both of them will also have the same set of instructions. You would expect and want them to both stay back while attacking, as well as stay on the edge of the box if they do progress forward. You want them to try and rotate the ball into those wider areas, try and supply those wider channels with the best possible opportunities to try and create for the further forward players. The interceptions is set to normal, and then finally the defensive position as well as the positioning freedom is set to stick to position, and then of course cover the center. You don't really want them drifting into those wider channels. You have quite a bit of movement in those wider areas of the field as it is, so you just want them to try and maintain the central areas of the pitch as much as possible. As you'll see here for the likes of Vital, the same role, the same instructions, the same everything. So out wide to your left and your right midfielders, we've got the likes of Cornerat as well as Hack. Both will also have the same set of instructions. Now, what I noted was these guys were more so the outlet ball for the counters. So for the defensive supports, both are set to a basic defensive support. So yes, when under the cosh, they can choose to drop a bit deeper, tuck in, help support the midfield in those more central areas, and just try and make sure that they're stifling the opposition's build-up play and trying to break up as much of the good offensive movements that the opposition are trying to create. The chance creation is set to a balanced width. Now this does help with the interchangeability with your wing backs as well as your wider midfielders, allowing for the one to overlap and the other to underlap, and like I say, vice versa. The support runs are set to get in behind, often looking to try and penetrate the opposition's backline, making sure that they are making those runs in behind and potentially looking for that ball to be fired in over the top. As for the interceptions, it's set to normal, and then of course with this counter-attacking system, you need players to commit into that attacking area, so you want them to be making those arcing runs into the box as much as possible. As you'll see here for the likes of Robin Hack, he's got the same set of instructions as well, and like I say, both of these players will be very key to the counter-attacks because your striker does tend to drop quite deep, and therefore you would expect your wingers to try and break in behind as much as they possibly can. And speaking of which, the striker, Flair or Play or Plee or however you pronounce his name, he is set to a balanced width, allowing him to drift along the back line, pick up those little pockets of space, collect the ball and look to try and lay it off and supply the players in and around him with a potential killer pass. As for the attacking runs, I've set this to false 9. He does tend to drop quite deep, and you can pair this with the comeback on defense approach. And quite often he will be the linking chain in the offense with the counterattacks going forward. So you want him on the ball as much as possible. You want to have him driving at the opposition, looking to try and, slip players in, try and create for the wider midfielders or maybe even the wing backs as well. So false 9 as well as the comeback on defense allows him to do this very, very effectively. And there you have it, people. That is how I would replicate the counter-attacking 3-4-3 Borussia Mönchengladbach tactics in FC24. I hope you have enjoyed this video. If you don't mind, again, just a friendly reminder, if you haven't already, hit that like button down below, subscribe, and all that good stuff. Now, in terms of the system ranking, I would give this a 6. It's a very average system. Maybe with better players in it, it could be a lot better, it could be a bit more fluid, but it does have its flaws. And that is, you can't really generate a lot of offense because you're looking to try and counterattack the opposition, especially if you have these exact instructions. So it can be a bit frustrating. You do tend to invite a lot of pressure in order for you to try and, score the goals because you're trying to counterattack as much as possible. And when you do invite pressure, especially with FC24, it can lead to errors and mistakes and late goals being conceded. And I mean, in the gameplay above, I literally conceded a late goal to the likes of Nico Schlotterbeck, which just infuriated me so much. So it does have its issues. It does have its pros as well, but I think a 6 best reflects the system at hand. But anyways, you guys can let me know though down below in the comment section. And until the next time, I hope you have a smashing goddamn day, and I'm out.